Welcome to the Vacation Races and Friends podcast, a podcast about events, travel, and the people who love both. Find more episodes at vacationraces.com. Hey there, it is your Vacation Races race announcer, Colleen, and I am here with Dane Craig, the race director for the Rocky Mountain Half Marathon 2020. We're going to talk all about it, give you guys all the details about the race and how it's going to happen, and we're going forward. We've got some great ideas, some great things in place, and we're going to let you know all about that as we make our way through this race guide. But Rocky Mountain Half Marathon, how many years have we been doing this Rocky Mountain Half Marathon, Dane?
Oh, so our first year that Vacation Races started doing races, which was 2013, and Rocky Mountain was one of the 3 races that we did that year.
That's right, yeah.
We did take a year off last year, though, so that would be what? This is our 7th year?
This would be the 7th year.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7th year. That's awesome. Rocky Mountain, really, I love this course up there in Estes Park. Estes Park is a beautiful location if you've never been there, just above Boulder, Colorado, just sitting at the base of Rocky Mountain National Park. It's gorgeous. It's known for its wildlife, and this is a beautiful course that we have.
It is a beautiful course. Yeah, it's you run around Lake Estes, which is a nice little beautiful run, especially in the morning. But then going up Dry Gulch and then down Devil's Gulch, you really get away from town and up closer to those beautiful rocks and mountains that are kind of backing up Estes Park. And then coming back down, you have really beautiful views of the Rocky Mountain.
Yeah, really. It's almost like a 180-degree view from the top where you get to see all of the high peaks. You can see Long's Peak from up there, and you can see the Lumpy Ridge on the right side. It really is gorgeous. You come down, you get to see the Stanley Hotel, and then we just have a beautiful course on tap for you. So you're really going to enjoy that, and we're excited to bring you there. How many racers are we expecting this year, Dane?
So we have just over 950 registered, but that includes 5K. So and then also including people who are running the Elk Double,
both, right?
Both the half and the 5K. So for the half, we're expecting about 750 runners for the half only, cool. And then probably about 400 to 500 for the 5K on Friday night.
Well, we're just excited that we got a race to do, right? I mean, 2020 has been weird. Vacation Races, of course, is not immune to any of that weirdness, but Vacation Races has been really creative in stepping up during this COVID-19 pandemic to roll out some new options and some different things. And we're going to see those options and see the precautions we're taking right here at Rocky Mountain Half Marathon and 5K. So it's going to be good. But what are you doing, Dane, as Vacation Races? What precautions are in place? So as people are coming and preparing to be here at the race, what are they going to expect? What are you guys doing?
Yeah, as we try and put on events at this time, things vary, right? State to state, county to county. And that's not even including some of the restrictions or concerns that people coming from elsewhere might have. So we're aware of those. There's not a lot we can do about those, right? Like if there's travel restrictions when you return home to the state that you're in or things like that. Those are things that we're hoping runners are paying attention to, and they're using their best judgment on whether or not this is an event they should participate in. And if it's not, we've canceled all deferment fees this year. And so as much as we'd love you to be there with us, obviously, if it's not going to work for you, if it doesn't feel safe for you or there's other complications, then you should definitely take that deferment. But focusing in Estes Park and in Colorado, we're going off of their health guidelines. And we submitted a modified operation plan to the health department to review. And then once they approved that, and then our permit was approved. And so there are things that are required of us by the health department and by restrictions in the state and local restrictions. And then there's things that as a team that we just think would just better protect our runners or create a safer environment or be a better experience. And so we've kind of thrown that all together and then come up with a modified plan. The biggest thing, it's an outdoor event, which cuts down the risk significantly. But the biggest concerns are obviously areas of congregation. And when you look at a race, those areas are expo, start line, finish line, and aid stations. That's where the potential for congregating and for and people rubbing shoulders when we don't really want them to.
Right.
So first we've canceled an expo. So bib pickup is just going to be a drive-through bib pickup. Unfortunately, we won't have vendors there, and we won't be able to hang out and have s'mores and things like that. So the fairgrounds, which is just near the start line of the race, we're going to use a long parking lot at the fairgrounds, and we're going to set up our bib pickup, shirts, hydro pouch, elk double swag, everything right there in the middle. And we're just going to have cars pull in. You're going to split into two lines, so that we can service, two
multiple people at once.
And get you through faster. Yeah. So that's how bib pickup is going to work. At the race itself, there's really a lot that we're doing, and then a lot that we're relying on our runners to do their part and to be responsible. And so we're going to have staggered starts for both the 5K and the half marathon. When possible, we're obviously going to encourage social distancing. We'd like people to stay 6 feet apart, especially if they're not in your traveling party. Wearing masks, obviously running with the mask isn't reasonable, but if it's, if you have a buff or something that you can wear that before you start, you can be wearing. And then once you get out on course, you can obviously take it off.
Something you can pull up and down when you're not able to social distance.
Yeah. Things like that. So aid stations are going to be attempted to be a little more hands-free. So we'll have foot pedals and spouts spread out a little bit more. And so you won't have to put your hand up by where other people will be getting water and drinking from.
And the nice thing is Vacation Races has always been a cup-free aid station scenario. And so now we're going even a step farther where you're not even going to have to use, you're not going to have to press anything on the fast flowing valves that we use. You're going to use a foot pedal. So that's going to really eliminate, so much where volunteers aren't touching your cups. You're really in control of all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, for everybody is a little more heightened, obviously, their level of concern because of COVID. But if you're just an average germaphobe, you're going to love it. Like you're going to be like, man, why haven't we been doing this at races?
Right. Years? It's going to be great. It's going to be great. So great.
It's going to be great.
So how about what about our volunteers at the aid stations and our staff and things like that?
Yeah. So staff will be wearing masks. And so will volunteers. And then otherwise volunteers will just kind of be there as normal, but the staggered start is really kind of the key to the whole thing because it's staggered. We don't have a lot of congestion in the start line. The trail out on course, it thins out a lot faster. And so then the frequency of people hitting the aid stations is also a lot less. So you don't have long lines at bathrooms. You don't have long lines getting water. You're not, aid station volunteers aren't frantically trying to refill jugs or grab trash from people or things like that. It just kind of slows the pace of the entire event down a little bit so that everyone can kind of just give each other a little bit of space and have a little bit more of a, spaced out and separated run.
And now as far as Estes Park itself in Colorado, are things and amenities open there right now as far as restaurants and stores? What can we expect when we travel there?
Yeah, so Estes Park is obviously it's a high tourist area, right? There's lots of shops and there's lots of restaurants. Right now, the town is open to dining and other activities and things like that, but there's obviously heavy restrictions. There's lots of outdoor eating and seating rather than indoor. There's lots of dining out options and things like that. So that's a hard question to answer. It varies for everywhere you're coming from, but it's kind of what you would expect. It's open for business, but it's not business as usual.
Sure. But
so runners should plan accordingly. Dining might be a little bit different. They should plan on it maybe taking a little longer or not being as conventional as they would expect, things like that.
Great. All right. Well, let's get into kind of how this meat and potatoes is going to work. You hit on the packet pickup a little earlier where it's going to be in a drive-through method. So explain exactly what we're going to see when we pull up to pick up our bib. And bib pickup starts at 10 a.m. on Friday, and it's going to go through the entire day that day until 6 p.m. And what can we expect when we get there?
So the first thing you'll see is probably the tail lights of the car in front of you. So we're going to do a drive-through pickup.
Follow the tail lights.
Yeah. So it's at the fairgrounds, which is south of the lake in Estes Park. And you can see it in the race guide. We've pinpointed the exact area, but the roads, the access roads to the parking lot aren't very well trafficked roads. So we expect traffic to back up a little bit on those roads, and that's okay. But basically, there's going to be a line of cars that will come into the parking lot. We will have our tents set up in the middle of the parking lot. It's a long parking lot. And so we'll have bibs, race shirts, Hydro Pouch, and then for anyone running the Elk Double, we'll have Elk Double swag, your extra shirt or cup or hat, things like that. We'll have a staff member who will probably kind of hand out a race guide to you in line, a printed race guide just for your reference, and then also answer any questions. I mean, obviously at any expo, right, people have lots of questions.
Sure.
And unfortunately, with a drive-through, it's not really conducive to just stopping and chit-chatting like we normally like to at the race info tent.
Yeah.
So what we'll try and do is answer those questions kind of beforehand. And so that by the time it's their turn to pick up their bib, then they're just kind of moving through the line. They get their bib, they get their race shirt, they get their Hydro Pouch, and then they're out of there.
And, you bring up a good point where it's a little bit different. You're not going to get to maybe ask those questions. Where's a good place that they can ask those questions? If you don't want to back up traffic or anything, but you still have some questions, is there a place that we can do that?
Yeah, sure. So I don't think physically in person that there's going to be a real good place to do that. But I think, on our Facebook page, we'll be monitoring that closely. And so maybe we'll probably just open up a thread where it's like, ask your questions here, and we'll just constantly we'll have someone monitoring it, either Kaylee or Anna or somebody from our team will just be there ready to answer questions for people.
Yeah. So check social media. We'll have that. Yeah. So we will have a place for you to ask those questions. So we don't want you to feel like you can't ask the questions, because the drive-through will be a little bit different for you.
Sure.
But that is a great place that you can do that. And of course, you can always just email us as well. We're really responsive to that. So
there will be backup. Like, I'm anticipating there'll be just a little bit of backup with vehicles. And so as a staff member goes, before they get to the actual bib pickup, there'll be, I think, a little bit of time to answer if there's urgent or pressing questions or things that people really need clarification on. But once they get into the queue to really get their bib and shirt, we want that to just kind of move smoothly. So
things are going to move a little bit quickly there.
We will also, I don't think I mentioned this, and we'll be sending out a more detailed email kind of about some of these things, but we will be checking temperatures of participants as they pick up their bibs. And if anybody is running a fever, we're going to ask them not to participate.
Okay, so you can expect that temperature check, expect the drive-through at packet pickup. If you're running the 5K that day, what do you suggest as far as timing on that day, and when should they pick their bib up by, and how's that going to work for the 5K?
Yeah, so the drive-through is going to be from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., but we're going to start 5K runners at 5 p.m.
Right.
So I would suggest, if you're a 5K runner, to get there early to get your bib so that you've got the whole rest of the day to go do whatever, and then come back in time for your race start. However, if that's not possible, at 4 p.m., we're going to take all of the 5K bibs over to the baseball field, which is where we're going to stage
the starting staging. Okay.
Yeah. And so they can pick up their bib before their race over at the baseball field. But again, we're trying to avoid unnecessary congregating and crowds. And so the drive-through is really what you should be aiming for, and try to get your bib through the drive-through. But if that's not possible and you're running the 5K or the elk double,
right,
then those bibs at 4 p.m. will be moved over to the baseball field, and then you'll be able to pick them up there.
All right. So if you're half marathon and you are there between 10 and 6, you'll be able to pick up your bib in the drive-through fashion. If you are doing the 5K at 4 o'clock, you're just going to go and park. And then when you're on your way to your starting area, that's when you can pick up that bib. So let's kind of get into that start line. The start line's definitely going to look different than we normally would have it look, but everything in 2020 looks different. So tell us how that's going to be different and how that's going to work.
Sure. So if you've, this is when we get into the real nitty gritty, but if you've got a race guide and you're listening and you want to read along with us, so on page 6, we've got a map that kind of shows the parking and the staging and how we're doing that. Basically, what we've done is in Colorado, and in Estes Park, gatherings are limited to groups of 50. So what we have to do for this race to be successful is have only 50 people start at a time.
Okay.
So what we've done is we've assigned a start time based off of a wave, and your wave is determined by the expected finish time that you put in when you were registering.
Okay.
So we take your expected finish time. You've been assigned to a wave, and now based on that wave, we've got a chart on page 6 that kind of talks about when you should be parked by, when you should be in the start line queue, and when you should be ready to start your race.
And this is really important. So we really encourage you to look at this in the race guide. It's been sent out by email as well, but that page 6, really looking at it. So for instance, for our first wave, we have our, what we call our overall wave. They need to be parked by 5 a.m. on Saturday for the half marathon, and they're going to head straight to the start line queue, and they're going to be put in that group of 50. And then their race start, they'll be led down to the race start, which is just underneath the main road, underneath the bridge to the start line, and then they'll be started at 5:30. But if you're in the second wave, you need to park by 5, and then you're going to go to the start line queue by 5:20. So we really want you to stick to those. I think that's probably the most important thing, right, Dana, is to make sure that we've got to keep these groups of 50. So if we can do our best to stick to the schedule, that's really going to help us out.
Right. Yeah. So the question we get asked a lot is, I'm in the blue wave, but I'm really not that fast. I don't know how I ended up there. We usually base it off of the expected finish time you gave us, or if it wasn't provided, it's randomly assigned. We won't necessarily be policing this. Like, we're not going to be checking people's bibs and saying, no, you're not this wave, you can't be here. What's really important to us is keeping it to these groups of 50. And so unless you have a good reason not to start in the wave that you're assigned to, please show up at the time that the schedule shows. Now, if there's, if someone in the blue wave has a runner in the pink wave, and they're like, they're
traveling together.
We're traveling together, and there's
have
no
one
other
car.
way we can do this. We have to. Is there any way we can start together? That's fine. Like, we're anticipating a few of those happening, just as we're anticipating a few later starters starting earlier. Just don't get super loosey goosey with it. Again, unless you have a good reason like that, please stick to your assigned wave.
And to find your wave, it's going to be printed on your bib. So that's where you can find where your wave is. It will be on your bib.
We also sent out an email with that wave assignment. So check your email; it's in there, and you can also check it by going to Run Sign Up. There's a runner lookup, and it shows what wave a runner is in.
Oh, very convenient. Okay, so that's runsignup.com.
Yes.
So Run Sign Up is where you can find your wave. It's also been emailed to you. It's in the race guide. You've got the race guide for the key, or kind of the map of how the starting area is going to work. And again, we just really encourage you to stay within your wave. That's really important, because you have to remember that our permitting is based on us keeping these starting groups at 50 or less. So help us out with that. As we're really trying to make it as organized as possible. So you'll know your parking time, the start line queue. From the parking, Dane, where is this start line queue going to be located?
Yeah, so again, on page 6, it shows a few of the parking areas. They're all just a little bit south of the start line, down near the high school, the middle school. There's an observatory down there. There's some parking there at the baseball field. So runners are going to park in one of these areas. If all of those get full, which I don't anticipate they will, but we do have overflow at the fairgrounds also. So they're all in close proximity to each other and just south of the start line and the start queue. So from these parking areas, they're just going to walk down. It's Community Drive. Mm-hmm. They're just going to walk right down Community Drive to the baseball fields. And the big baseball field is where we're going to stage all of our runners.
And this is going to be signed.
That's what we call the queue.
We're going to have signage out there. We're going to have volunteers out there. So it's not like you're going to be scrambling around in the dark at 5 o'clock in the morning. We'll definitely help you with that.
Right. So the baseball field is what we're calling the start line queue. And that's basically where we're going to split you up into groups of 50 according to waves. So the idea is, in theory, that we'll start a group of 50, and then we'll move the next group of 50 from the baseball field down to the start line, and then kind of pull the other groups of 50 over. And right about that time, our next group should be coming down from the their parking assignment, and then getting into the start line queue on the baseball field. And then we'll start grouping them into the vacant spots. And then we'll just keep that going all morning.
Great.
We will be broadcasting instructions on an FM transmitter. So
FM channel 93.1. If you tune into that, you'll be able to pick up all the announcements and everything like that in your car. So
yeah, we'll broadcast instructions on the radio. So if you get there a little early and you park, like no big deal. Don't come down. No need to come down early. Just come down when you hear us broadcast over the radio that we're ready for you.
So if you are running for overall awards and things like that, how is that going to be affected in this whole staggered start?
If you're competing for one of those overall male or female overall or masters placements, then you should go in the overall, the first wave. The one that's going to after that will be based off of chip time. So
okay, so chip time. So no worries about that.
Does not matter when you start.
Yeah, doesn't matter when you start. We do have that electronic chip timing, except if you're running for those overall male, female, or masters awards, which is generally a small group, and you should be assigned to that already based on your projected finish times anyway. So just good to know by that. So once we're in the start line queue, we're in our group of 50. We're going to be escorted down to the start line. And anything different from that point on?
No. So the course is slightly different. Usually we start right on that main road right there. We close the road and all the runners start on it. But obviously with a staggered start and it going on all morning, that's not an option. So we will be starting on the trail that's right along the lake.
It just parallels the road. Yeah.
But it just parallels the road. So the course won't really be very different other than that. All paved. Aid stations, we can still expect aid stations at mile 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 12, roughly. And each aid station will have water and gnarly electrolyte drink, honey stinger gels, and toilets. So other than the staggered start, not a lot of changes to the course itself. And I think actually a really, really great course. People always get really, they kind of psych themselves out. Oh, it's at elevation and there's that climb for the first, 4 miles. And it is tough, but if you run it right, it actually can be a pretty fast course because you get a lot of the climbing and it's steady in those, between mile 2 and 4 roughly, right there going up Dry Gulch. But then when you peak out and then coming down Devil's Gulch, it's really a pretty nice...
It's a nice rolling downhill from that point. And then once you get to the lake to finish up those final miles, it's quite flat and really scenic once you're down there. The one thing that you do have to remember is you are at elevation. You're above 7,000 feet when you're at Estes Park. So when you're coming up, just remember that as far as hydration, you definitely need to be well hydrated, taking in plenty of electrolytes, and we'll have all those options that you expect at the aid stations. They'll also, are we going to have any fresh fruit or any options at the aid stations like normal, or is that a change?
Yeah, we will at 7-Eleven. We will have oranges and bananas.
Okay. Just make sure to be hydrated. You're carrying your own hydration pack. You got to make sure that you have your own way of filling your whatever hydration you have at the aid stations. But just do know that you're at elevation. Things are going to feel different, especially if you're coming from sea level or something like that. It will feel different up there, but just slow down a little bit. This is not necessarily the climbs that we're talking about it's like mile 2 to you're going to feel it between mile 2 and to mile 5 about is what you're going to feel it. And it's not a steep climb. It just goes on for a really long time. It's a very gradual, I would have to say it's probably like a 3% average grade. It's not very steep, but it is something that just goes on for a while. And then you turn the corner and you come down Devil's Gulch and you have a beautiful view. And it's just a rolling downhill from that point. So challenging, but like you said, it's not a slow course. It's definitely not slow. It feels a little different because we are at a little bit of elevation.
Yeah, just listen to your body.
Yeah,
that's what people are always concerned about elevation. We tell them just listen to your body. Like if you're having a hard time catching your breath, just slow things down a little bit. You know.
Yep.
And obviously stay hydrated, but even more so the days leading up to the race. Hydrate. Like before you start traveling, start hydrating. The day before the race, stay very well hydrated. That's all important.
It always helps. As far as medical, do we have medical going to be on the course at around mile 7 like normal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we will. We'll have medical around mile 7 and then also at the finish line.
Okay. So pretty much once we get started, it's going to feel very familiar. It just is going to spread out a little bit more for us, which is great because we want to have as much social distancing as possible. And then as we come to the finish line, how is that going to work?
You're going to cross the finish line, and that's how you get a finish time, Colleen. I'm surprised I have to explain this to you.
Wow. I had no idea that was how we got a finish time. Really? I thought I could just cut off early, go to my car.
You would.
I would.
No, I'm just kidding. The finish line is, again, going to be very similar. We'll have some volunteers and staff there who, again, will be wearing masks because, when you're out on course and you're spread out and everybody's moving and we're a little distance from each other. But the finish chute is, again, an area for possible congregation. The staggered start, again, is going to thin that out. But just to be cautious, again, volunteers and staff will be wearing masks. You're across the finish line. You'll get a finisher medal. You'll get a chocolate milk, a banana, and a Fitful box, which is full of recovery snacks.
Good stuff to eat.
If you want. Of course, you don't have to take them if you don't, but you just ran 13.1 miles. And so
you should fuel up. Yeah.
You get everything you can. Yeah. And then the main difference is we're asking people not to just kind of hang out in the finish line.
Right.
Spectators. We know that having a spectator there, seeing your runner across the finish line, having a spectator there for you is really important. But at the same time, we can't have hundreds of spectators just hanging out in the finish line waiting for their runner all day. We do have Race Joy enabled for this race.
Which is an app. If you don't know what Race Joy is, it's an app that you can download on your phone.
Yeah, and there are instructions in the race guide, but both the runner and the spectator need to have it downloaded. And so the runner downloads it and the spectator downloads it, and then just follow the instructions to kind of input the race, and then they say which runner they're tracking, and then it's just based off GPS. And so you'll know when your runner's getting close to the finish. So what we would ask for spectators to do is, if you have to be there, if you need to be there for your runner, download the Race Joy app or have them call you when they're,
within the last half mile or something. Yes.
Yeah. And then come to the finish line, cheer for them as they cross, let them catch their breath, and then move along. Just kind of, there's lots of space there around the lake. You're welcome to go, away from the finish chute area and obviously recover, catch your breath, enjoy the beautiful scenery before getting in your cars and leaving. But just that area, the finish chute and the run and recover area, we need to do our best to keep it clear. And so not having a bunch of spectators waiting for hours for their runner is going to help us do that.
Yeah. So help us out with that. And don't forget, we've got that FM transmitter we'll be using. So 93.1, we'll be broadcasting the entirety of the event. So you'll be able to hear the finish line and you'll be able to hear announcements and things like that. So your spectators can also use that 93.1 to tune into, and that will be helpful for them as well. And spectators on course, we also discourage that just because of traffic issues. We don't want to clog up the roads with spectators on the side of the road. So it's not spectator friendly, but we do welcome them to come, but please just pay particular attention to congregation and making sure you're keeping your social distance and things like that. And I think the biggest change is the fact that I'm not going to be able to hug and high five everybody at the finish line, Dane. It's really you have to realize it's like gutting for us not to be able to do that, because that's what we do.
We're going to put Colleen in a bubble.
Colleen's going to be, I should get one of those hamster balls. That's what I should do. Yeah. The hamster ball, and I'll walk around and I can high five people in my hamster ball. Like that guy who went out on a date with a woman from New York City in a hamster ball during quarantine,
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't? It's a great story. Look it up. They met each other and he was in a hamster ball the whole time. It was great. So
Did they go on a second date?
I don't know. I haven't heard how that relationship's going. It's okay. Yeah. It's 2020 dating. That's what it is. But it will be a little bit different, but we're still going to have a lot of fun. We'll have music there. We're going to have our volunteers. People are going to be cheering you on even louder. We're going to do it even louder, and we're going to make it fun, but it will be a little different. And we just need you to help us out as far as keeping that social distance, just so that we can make sure that we're maintaining everything that we need to do for everybody's health and safety. So
this is kind of on a little bit of a personal note, but our race is not an opportunity to make a statement regarding your feelings about COVID or restrictions or anything like that. We are doing our best to be compliant with the health department's guidelines for compliance sake, so that we can continue to do events, and then also for the safety of our runners. So by coming and participating, we're kind of expecting you to, agree to that social contract that we're all there looking out for each other, and we're going to do our part to not only help this event be successful, but also make everybody attending feel comfortable and enjoy their experience. So we appreciate everybody's cooperation doing that.
Yeah. And we want the town of Estes to look back and say, wow, that Vacation Races, they just were able to put on a great event in this new normal circumstances that we have. And so we appreciate you guys helping us out with that as we go forward. So what about like race merchandise? What if I want to buy some race merchandise or something? Is that available at the race?
Yes. So we will have race merchandise for sale, although we won't be doing the expo. Race merchandise will be available Friday night from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then also Saturday morning from 7 a.m. to about noon or 1, just as whenever our last runners are finished. And that's going to be, as you exit the ball field, you walk on there's this little walking path that goes through a tunnel under the main road and then onto the path around the lake where we'll start the race. As you approach the tunnel, there's a big empty lot on your left, and that's where merchandise tents are going to be all set up. And
great.
So, we invite you to come if you've got some time before your race starts. Come on over and do some shopping, or after you cross the finish line, stop on your way back to your car. Again, we're going to ask that you're wearing a mask and that you're trying to keep distance from each other and giving each other some space inside the merchandise tent. But that will be available both Friday night and Saturday morning.
Great. And if maybe somebody's not comfortable in approaching a tent like that, or it's busy or something, everything's available online. Yeah.
And we'll send out an email after the race and let everybody know, and everything that's still in inventory we'll have available online.
Great. So lots of options there for you. Again, Vacation Races is doing such a great job to really make sure that we can execute and get this event to happen and go forward. And that's pretty exciting. All right, Dane, we've hit on packet pickup. We've talked about the start line, the aid stations, the course, how the finish line is going to look a little bit different. Anything else that we need to expect for this 2020 edition of Rocky Mountain Half Marathon?
Not that I could think of. It's kind of business as usual, except for how we're doing bid pickup in the start. And so those are just kind of the best laid plans, right? And we've got really good plans, and we're gone over it as a team. And we're really hopeful and optimistic that it's all going to go well. But those are kind of the unknowns. Those are the things the runners really need to pay attention to and come up with a game plan for themselves race morning. What's my schedule look like? When do I need to be parked? Where is that going to be? What's my start time and things like that. So those are really the big things that.
Yeah, you guys can help us out a lot on this, just making sure where you need to be and when you need to be there. That's going to help us out. And, just when you see circumstances that you can help with social distancing or something like that it's going to go a long way in this event and making it successful so that we can, continue to have great races even in 2020 and the global pandemic. I really hate the term new normal. I used it a minute ago. It's really coming to be one of my most hated phrases, that and in an abundance of caution. I know that we need these kinds of things, but man, I wish we didn't have to hear them anymore.
Just the kind of phrase that loses meaning because it gets used. So
they really do. Well, Dane, let's talk about the park, because we have a lot of people coming for this Rocky Mountain Half Marathon event and 5K that have never been to Rocky Mountain National Park. It's a beautiful park. It has a Trail Ridge Road is such a great drive. You get up to this over 12,000 feet. You can drive up to over 12,000 feet within Rocky Mountain National Park. There's beautiful peaks to see. It's great, but it's a little different there as well this year.
It is. The first time I drove Trail Ridge Road, it was the first year we did the race. And I used to do all our marketing. And so I was running around. I was like, I got as much video and footage and photos and things of the park so that we can kind of show off and make sure runners know how great Rocky Mountain is, that they should come here and visit. And so I was trying to hurry because I only had the afternoon after the race. So I drive up the Trail Ridge Road and I park and I get out and I grab my camera and I start running up because there's, like what, a quarter mile path.
Right. It's not very long.
It's not very long. And I'm running up there and I make it like 100 yards and I'm like, start struggling and I'm feeling really sleepy and I'm like, what is going on? And then I remembered, oh yeah, I'm at 12,000 feet.
Yes. Yeah. Trail Ridge Road goes really high up and over Rocky Mountain National Park. So when you are up the top, I think my family has a picture taken up there. I think it's like 12.1 or 12.2. I mean, it is really high and you can drive on pavement. There's a visitor center just up there with a big parking lot. But how is it different when we want to go drive Trail Ridge Road this year? And when we want to, of course, Vacation Race is known for our club hikes and our trifecta activities because we love to encourage people to get into the national parks, but it's going to be a little bit different when you visit this time.
Yeah, it is. If you haven't heard yet, there is on recreation.gov, Rocky Mountain National Park is doing a timed entry reservation system. So you need to go on recreation.gov and reserve an entry into the park. Basically, it's like an allocated time that you're allowed to enter the park.
Yeah, it's like a block of time that you can get through the entry gates.
Right. Yeah. Once I think you're in the park, you can.
Yeah, you can hang out. You don't have to get out.
Expiration on it.
Right. It's just to get you in.
Right. So they're trying to control obviously the crowds inside the park. It's part of their phased reopening. So the link is in the race guide, but it's recreation.gov and it's the timed entry for Rocky Mountain. So anytime that you want to enter the park on your visit, whether that's just once, Saturday after the race, or it's multiple times because you're making a week out of it or whatever, you need to make sure that you have that reservation.
Does that cost? Does it cost anything for that reservation?
It does cost, but it's based off of your, like if you have an annual pass to the national parks, it's like $1.
Okay.
For the reservation.
Okay, great. So do make sure you get that timed entry because, of course, our trifecta activities for Rocky Mountain, hike around Bear Lake. That area is a beautiful area around Bear Lake, but it does tend to get congested. And
it's a very popular area.
Yeah. So that area is something that you definitely, and honestly, with the timed entry, you may find yourself with many fewer people to contend with at these beautiful locations. So this may be a great time and worth your patience with that time entry system because you're going to be seeing things with far fewer people.
Yeah, I think I understand why it's necessary for the park to do that. But it's not my favorite. I like to just go when I want to go, obviously, but we all don't get to do exactly what we want to do all the time, especially now. But there's been lots of times that we've tried to go and Bear Lake you can't find parking there.
Yeah,
and
it's packed.
It's really busy. And so I think, if you can plan your trip, I think it'll be a really good way to see the park. It'll be a lot less crowded and you'll won't have to spend time worrying if you're going to find parking and fighting with traffic. It's just going to be a little quieter. So it should be a really great time to visit the park.
Yeah, so Bear Lake is on our trifecta. Then we've got Alberta Falls, which is in that Bear Lake area, and then driving on Trail Ridge Road. Those are our trifecta activities. And then we've got 2 club hikes, Chasm Lake, which I have been up to, and it is a beautiful, beautiful lake right underneath Long's Peak, which is the highest peak in Rocky Mountain National Park. And then we have the Continental Divide Club that's going to take you up to Hallett Peak, which is actually just almost 13,000 feet, 12,700 is where that's going to get you up to. So all of these require you to get that timed reservation on recreation.gov. So make sure you have those if you're expecting to finish any of these trifecta or activities or club hikes. Just make sure you've got that in place. But Rocky Mountain is a beautiful place. There's a lot of backcountry, lots of things to see there. So make sure to take some time and do that.
So the parks, the hiker shuttles from Estes Park into Rocky Mountain will not run this summer.
Okay.
But the park and ride shuttles inside Rocky Mountain are operating.
Okay.
But they're limited to only 15 passengers per shuttle.
Perfect. Because I know they rely heavily on those shuttles in normal years because of the congestion and things in Rocky Mountain. But so there is some of them not running. Park and ride is running within the park. So that's good to know.
Speaking of which, what I recommend if you want to do the trifecta is park at the Glacier Gorge Trailhead, which is also the trailhead to Alberta Falls, hike down to Alberta Falls, and then coming back out, you can just hike a little bit further up to Bear Lake, and then you're at Bear Lake, and then you do a little walk around Bear Lake, and then you can just hop on a shuttle right back down to that Glacier Gorge Trailhead where you parked.
Oh, great suggestion.
That's how I like to do it.
Yeah, then you don't have to try to find parking in two different places. And that's
a little more hiking. It's a pretty short hike from Alberta Falls up to Bear Lake, but it's a nice one.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area in that area anyway. So cool. Okay, so we've got timed entry to the park. We've got everything. Anything else we're missing? Oh, I forgot. Free race photos. We got free race photos. Our photographers are not going to be stationed at the finish line, but they will be out on course. So look for our Lucid Images photographers out there on course. So you will be getting your free race photos just like normal. And they're beautiful from this race. So you definitely want those.
Just like normal, except they'll be less crowded in your photos.
It's going to be just you. Actually, it could be good. Yeah.
Better. So that'll be around mile 5 and mile 8.
You know, if we really want to make Robbie and Audie really upset, I'm going to tell everybody to try to get a jumping photo when they come by.
Yeah, they love that.
They're just gonna love that. They
love it. They especially love it when they didn't quite nail the jump the first time, so they go back.
Right. So try for those jumping photos and tell them Colleen sent you. That will be the best. And have a little fun with our photographers out there, but they will be there. One thing I want to hit on one more time before we get out of here is that RaceJoy app. It's really going to be helpful for us to have your spectators have the RaceJoy app. You have the RaceJoy app. We have the instructions on how to use that app in the race guide. And you can just download that on your phone. And it's going to be really helpful because then your spectators can track you. And then you also have your own tracking when you start and finish. You'll have some of your kind of information on that as well. It also will give you some alerts along the way. And we'll upload it with some fun stuff. Right, Dane?
Yeah. That's page 19 of the race guide. Talks a little bit more about RaceJoy and how to download that and how that works.
Great. So it's a great app to work and it will really help us. Again, we're going to have a radio transmitter, 93.1 on that radio transmitter. We've got the RaceJoy app. These are all things that kind of help us with that social distancing on the back end. So yeah, it's going to be great. I'm excited. I have not seen the Vacation Races family since Zion back in February, and it's kind of crazy that it's been that long. And we're going to do it though. We're going to make it happen, and it's going to be a good time. Anything else we need to wrap up with, Dane?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything. Again, all these things are in much greater detail in the race guide, which is on our website, and also everyone should have been emailed the link to it. So read it. It's good bathroom reading. It's
great bathroom reading,
car trip reading. So if you're riding shotgun when you're not, running DJ in the car, then read the race guide to everybody else in the car. Make sure everybody knows what's what and you're familiar with it, and you got a game plan for race morning. It's going to be great. We're excited to see everybody.
Yeah, we are excited to see everybody. And also we have just the week after our Rocky Mountain Half Marathon, we've got a new Yellowstone race that Vacation Race is rolling out this year for 2020. Give us a little, teaser about that one.
Earlier in June, we did that Zion at Night small group half marathon. And so we restricted the start heavily. Like we kind of did what we're doing at Rocky Mountain, except much more spread out. We only had 50 people every hour. Mm-hmm. And so it was real staggered. Everybody almost had kind of your own personal race. It was a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
So we're doing that at Yellowstone, except not running through the night, running through the day.
Oh, why wouldn't you want to do that at night in Yellowstone? I mean, come on.
Well, it's the same reason, Colleen, that we're not using our course that we usually use for our Yellowstone half marathon.
Yeah. The reason is the large, gigantic bears that live there.
The Forest Service is baiting and trapping and relocating bears. And a lot of that activity is heavy on our old course. So we're not using that course. We're actually going to use the Rendezvous ski trails, which is like some really great.
They're amazing. I was just in West Yellowstone 2 weeks ago, and we stayed right next to Rendezvous, and I was out walking on the trails. There's 25K of trails. They're ski trails, but they're so nice this time of year because they're just wide open and they're grassy and they're really in great shape. So
yeah, they're real good running, real soft court, not bumpy and rocky and rutted out like our other courses. But you also don't get some of the views that course gives us along the Madison River there. So there's trade-offs, but it's really great running, beautiful through the woods. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, we'll be up there August 8th.
Great. And what else do we have coming up in the fall?
Oh man, our fall is stacked. So then after Yellowstone, September 12th, we're going to be out at Great Smoky Mountains.
Yeah.
We've got our 5K and half marathon in the Smokies.
One of my favorite courses.
And then the week after that, because everyone loved Zion at Night so much the first time, we're going to do it again. And we actually had to do it on really short notice. So people only had like 3 weeks to decide if they can make it or not. So we're going to do a second one. So Zion at Night will be down there in Virgin, Utah. Same course, running at night. The first time was under a full moon, which was beautiful. Mm-hmm. This time it's going to be under a new moon, which means that you're going to be able to see the Milky Way really clearly.
And September, the temperatures are great overnight.
Yeah, it's going to be beautiful through the night. Really comfortable running.
Yep. So we've got that.
Yep. So Smokies and then Zion at Night. And then the week after that, we're actually doing a Zion Ultra. All of our distances except for the 100 mile. So we will not offer a 100 mile. But we will have our 50 mile and a half marathon distance there.
Yeah, because Zion Ultra was, it's originally scheduled for back in April. Of course, that didn't happen. So give you a little bit of it in the fall, which is it's a great time of year to have it. So I'm excited. Yeah,
it's going to be great. Then after that, we've got Trail Fest the first week of October, which is going to be great. There's a lot of question marks around Trail Fest that we're trying to navigate right now, but
it's a different race, and so it's 2020.
Yeah, that's right, 3 days of trail running, and then the festival at night, and then the week after that is our Lake Powell half.
Crazy.
So we're just going to be week to week to week for a couple months.
Yeah, that's great. And then, wow, it's just crazy to think that we're coming into that back end of 2020. I don't know where the rest of 2020 went, but we have some exciting things. If you want information on any of the upcoming races, you can go to vacationraces.com. All those races open for registration except for Trail Fest. Is that correct, Dane?
No, Trail Fest is open.
Oh, okay, great.
We're in late registration for Trail Fest.
Great. Yeah. Perfect. So everything's at vacationraces.com, so you can check it out there. And yeah, we're going to have a great Rocky Mountain half marathon and 5K. We're excited to welcome you to Estes Park, especially if you've never been there before. And if you are part of the family that we are used to seeing, we've missed you and we cannot wait to see you in Colorado. So it's going to be great. If you do have any questions, you can hit us up on social media. You can also reach out to our customer service over email, which is Kaylee. You can talk to Kaylee at vacationraces.com, or you can also email Dane. I'll throw him under the bus, Dane, DEHN, at vacationraces.com. And he can answer any questions that you might have if you're coming to Rocky Mountain or you've got any other vacation races questions. But it's going to be a great time. We're excited to be able to produce this event for you. We ask for your help. That's the biggest thing. Dane hit on this earlier. We ask for your help. We're trying to comply with the local health department there in Colorado. So if you can help us to produce an event for you, that would be great. So we're excited to see you. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. 2020, moving along.
Thanks, Colleen.
You've been listening to the Vacation Races and Friends podcast. We'd love your feedback. Email podcast@vacationraces.com with comments, concerns, or stories you'd love to share. Make sure to watch for more episodes coming soon to vacationraces.com. This episode was directed by Robin Rogers and produced by Colleen Rue in the Festival Sound Studio. For information about music licensing, contact Dane at vacationraces.com.